The reason we are here today, on the 17th of September, is because today is the 230th anniversary of the signing of the Constitution of the United States of America. For many, this will be a day unobserved. At most, it will be a small factoid mentioned on the evening news for most people. But we put this event together because most of us here still understand that the Constitution is the only thing that separates us from the other 197 countries around the world. Most importantly, it's an opportunity to recognize the genius and determination of the men who gathered in Philadelphia with an impossible task before them. In a fledgling nation, they recognized that the half measure that they were using to structure their government was not going to be sustainable because of the inequities it created between the states. They knew that somehow they needed to create harmony within a society that had just been labeled wholesale as rebels a few years before. They needed to garner the unanimous support, not just consent, of 13 former colonies that were bitterly divided within themselves between half shell-shocked veterans that were revolutionaries and loyalist Tories who still hoped for reunion with Britain. The individuals who journeyed to Philadelphia surely knew how ridiculous their effort was likely to be. Yet they went, and they poured their souls into their work, debating the interests of their states and of their individual constituents, and yet willing to look at the big picture. Perhaps this is a foreign concept to us today, because there are fewer and fewer people in our capitals, in the halls of our capitals, who are willing or even able to look at the big picture and able to debate with the intent of swaying hearts and minds. When we would rather stoke the fires of division and petty disagreements than examining the full and true scope of our nation's health. The Founding Fathers, however, were filled with young men's idealism. Not that they were ignorant of the realities, but rather that they were raised in a society that placed high values on the ideals of the Enlightenment. They believed that mankind had inalienable rights that were inseparable from their humanity and bestowed only by their Creator. They understood that governance was a necessity and should exist to protect those rights. No king could grant or revoke what only God had already promised. So they set upon their task with a vigor that most politicians would find foolhardy today. They developed protections, what we now know erroneously as divisions of power and checks and balances, which were not meant to grant power, but rather to diffuse it. Each branch of government was to be weakened to the point that only the most important issues could rise to the top. Even today, we look at the controversies in Washington and lambaste Congress and the President for, quote, not getting things done, when we are witnessing our Constitution in action. It isn't that Congress is dysfunctional, but rather that a consensus on how to reform our institutions has not yet been met. And it can only be met by our officials and institutions working to convince and convert their constituents. The Founding Fathers came to the conclusion that the best way to protect against the whimsical nature of democratic governance was to fundamentally make our nation a republic with democratic representation as a feature. And so after convening multiple times in Philadelphia and making compromises that would put different states at a level playing field in one house and individual citizens at a level playing field in another, they produced what we know today as the Constitution of the United States of America. To bring on the remaining states, they created 10 protections for individuals and created the Bill of Rights, which was ratified a few years later. We honor their hard work and sacrifice today because we know now from experience that they were right. But they didn't know that at the time. They didn't know if the new government would survive a decade, let alone a century, or 230, as it has. Our best moments as a nation have been our times when the Constitution was adhered to, and our darkest have been those when we strayed. My family knows this on a personal level, and many of you, I'm sure, have been survivors of similar moments. Yet we stand here today because someone righted the course and brought our nation back to fidelity.
Whether it was an individual or group, we can still stand today and face down our demons as a people. We have and will stand together and remind our leaders that honoring the Constitution is not optional, as it is the supreme law of this land, and we are a nation of laws, not men. I ask you to honor the founders' sacrifice, their tenacity, their idealism, by taking the time to familiarize yourself with our national documents and the protections that they guarantee. Know your rights, know our system of governance, and keep fighting the good fight to protect, restore, and unleash the American promise.